I'll click on it now, and you should see in your Total Training Class window the same thing you see with your InDesign application, the New Document dialog box. By default, InDesign CS6 creates a one-page, portrait, or vertically oriented, letter-sized page with a half-inch margin set all the way around the page. Well, actually, it doesn't look like a half inch because it's reported with the default setting of picas and points, or printer's measures. So everybody measures up the same way in this InDesign course. Let's change our default measurements to inches. Click on the Cancel button. Then, if you're on a Windows PC like we are here, select the Edit, Preferences, Units and Increments menu command. On the Mac, you'll first go to your InDesign pull-down menu, then select the Preferences, Units and Increments menu command. No matter how you click on that command, selecting it opens the Preferences dialog box with the Units and Increments option selected. We'll talk a lot more about what we see here in Chapter 4, but for right now, change the horizontal and vertical ruler units options boxes from picas to inches. I'm going to do that again for the vertical options box. I'm first going to click on it. I'm going to change it from picas to inches. So if your Preferences dialog box now looks like the one you see in your Total Training Class window, with the horizontal and vertical ruler units edit boxes both set for inches, let's click the OK button and we'll return to the InDesign CS6 desktop. We're going to quickly get back our New Document dialog box by using the keyboard shortcut Command N if we're working on the Mac, or if you're working on a Windows PC like we are, we're going to use the keyboard shortcut Control N. Notice that in the Intent options box, the default setting is Print. InDesign CS6 follows a long tradition of Adobe's industry-leading print production application. But if you click on that options box, you'll see we also have a web setting. Programs like Adobe Dreamweaver have traditionally worked better as web editors, but InDesign works pretty darn good as a web tool with CS6. And there are also settings here that are useful for designing digital publications in interactive PDF, ebook, and tablet application formats. InDesign lets you create digital publications as well as print ones. We'll cover this in more detail when we get to the interactive design chapter of our InDesign course. Let's click away from that Intent options box and get back to our New Document dialog box. You'll notice that we have two check boxes to the right of the page numbering edit boxes. Selecting the Facing Pages checkbox lets you see two pages side by side like an open magazine spread. We're only going to create a one-page document, so we can turn that option off. If you select the Primary Text Frame checkbox, InDesign automatically creates a placeholder for text that matches up with the settings you have for your margins and columns edit boxes. That's handy for rigidly designed documents like formal proposals, manuals, or book pages. It's not so good for freeform design like, say, doing magazine advertisements or custom business cards. That's why you can turn this setting on and off to suit your project needs. If you click on the down-pointing triangle to the right of the Page Size Options box, it'll show you the various size presets you have available. You have both US and European print page sizes for a standard business card or for a jewel case cover for a compact disc. At the bottom, you'll see a custom page size, which corresponds to any page size that doesn't match up to any of these presets up above it. Click away from that Page Size Options box. We'll now create a custom-sized page within InDesign. As your instructor, I know the maximum allowable size for an InDesign page, but for the purpose of this exercise, let's say that I don't, but I want to find out. The way you do that is to load in a truly outrageous number. Let me show you by highlighting the information in the width edit box and changing the value to 1,000,000 inches. When I click the OK button, an alert box pops up that tells me that the value in the edit box must be between 0.0139 and 216 inches. I can now say, "Thank you for nagging me," and click the OK button. I now know the limits for how wide or tall my InDesign document pages can be. By the way, learning the limits for most any value you can enter within InDesign, or any Adobe application for that matter, works this way. Just enter a truly wild number in that edit box, and the Adobe application will automatically reject the huge number and tell you what the accepted limits for that value are. There aren't too many situations where exceeding your limits has positive consequences, but this is one of them. To the right of the New Document dialog box are 4 buttons. Don't click on any of them yet. Let's discuss what they do first. The OK and Cancel buttons do what you'd expect, allowing you to create a new document file or not. If you have a custom set of document settings that you use for creating certain types of InDesign document files on a regular basis, you can click the Save Preset button and call all those settings up for a new document file anytime you need them. Let's click on the More Options button to see what's available. This opens the Bleed and Slug section down at the bottom of the dialog box. Let's explain what bleed and slug areas are. When you see something that looks like it's printed to the absolute edge, that's generally not the case. Most all print devices, whether they're the office laser printers you use to proof jobs or high-end offset presses that you'd use to print a glossy national magazine, need some space around the edges where they can grab paper, carry it through the output device, and spit it out at the other end. You can't print along those areas because the output device needs those edges to move the paper through the device. The solution is to print that page on a larger sheet, then use what's called a cutting press to trim it down inside the printed edges. The printed image cut off is what's known as the bleed area, and lets you get that print to the very edge effect. The slug area is also defined outside your printed page. It's used to include job data and administrative information used to track your print job, but that you later want to cut off so it doesn't become part of your final print piece. To illustrate the bleed and slug areas, let's change the bleed area in the top edit box to 0.25 inches, then hit the Tab key. Notice by default that all 4 edit boxes change to the same value. If the little chain button to the right of those bleed edit boxes is selected, what that does is that links all the bleed edit boxes together. So when one value changes, the rest of them are going to change the same way. Let's go down to the slug area. And what we'll do is we'll change the bottom slug edit box to 0.75 inches and then hit the Tab key. You'll notice by default that little chain is broken when that link button is deselected, and that allows us to set values for each slug edit box separately. Let's take just a second to review the settings we have for our new document dialog box. We're using the default letter size page, creating a one-page document with a starting page numbering at 1. Our intent is to create a print document without facing pages or primary text frame options selected. Our page will be in a vertical or portrait format. It will have 1 column. You can't have no columns. You have to have at least 1, with a space of 0.1667 inches or 1/6 of an inch between multiple columns. The page will have a 1/2 inch margin all the way around, with a bleed area of a 1/4 inch all around the outside of the page, and a 3/4 inch slug area outside the bottom of the page. If your new document dialog box settings match mine, as they're shown here in your total training class window, click the OK button within InDesign to create your first class document file.